What's up everybody, Mr.Hawk here, and today we are going to be learning a little bit about patterns, designs, and tessellations through the lens of graphic artist M.C. Escher. M.C. Escher, Moritz Cornelis Escher. He was a Dutch graphic designer born June 17, 1898 in the Netherlands. In 1922, he actually began to play with patterns and shape designs, which was only further cemented as his niche art style when he learned of the Moorish tessellations. These were intricate tile designs of the Palace Alhambra in Granada, Spain. Even though he was praised for his tessellations as being some sort of mathematical genius, Escher himself would actually tell you that he wasn't particularly any good at math. It was only until after he began to contact mathematicians and professors that he actually began to push his creative designs and etchings even further into the whimsical and creative spaces, playing with infinity and mathematical concepts, and really infusing the human element of magic and whimsy into his art. Sadly, Escher did die March 27th, 1972 at the age of 73. And so today we are going to be going over how to make a pattern using some of the concepts that M.C. Escher himself did as well. Alright, so to begin, these are the materials that you're going to need. First, you're going to want to have a decent sized piece of paper for the final drawing or the final project that we're going to do with this video, and also just to jot down some notes, which we're going to be going over in just a moment. So, piece of paper, post-it note, tape, a pencil to draw with or write with, and go ahead and throw in some markers and colored pencils or anything that you can color with, and you're also going to need a scissor. So if you can go and grab those materials real quick, pause the video, and come right back. So you're probably thinking, what is a tessellation? So let's go over that before we get into the main project. A tessellation is a shape that repeats to make a pattern. Okay? Now what do I mean by this? I mean things like a chess set, right? What is that? That's nothing but squares, right? So let's draw a couple of lines here to show our example. Look at that. We have an interlocking tessellation of squares, right? So let's color that in, and that. Look at that. If we continue to pattern these out, we could make a nice checkerboard tessellation, okay? But that's just using squares. What if we used triangles to make a tessellation? Let's do this. All right, look at that. Built off of the same square grid, we can now break these up into triangles. Look at that. And the cool thing is, triangles tessellate, so let's go with that. And also, built off of the triangles, oddly enough, hexagons also tessellate and can make an interlocking pattern which has no gaps. And remember that, so this is hexagons. So, how do we make tessellations and these interlocking shapes with no gaps? How does this all relate to M.C. Escher and making some cool, interesting patterns and tessellations? Well, that's what we're going to do right here. So go ahead and grab a post-it note. Just a single one, doesn't matter. And just plop that down right there so we can see it. Alright, so we're not going to worry about how many interlocking shapes there are that can make cool tessellations using generic shapes like triangles, squares, and hexagons. But today we're going to be mainly focusing on manipulating a square into a cool tessellation. So, I've gone ahead and outlined it right here so that way you could see it on the camera a little bit better. Now, taking your pencil, I want you to go ahead and focus on just side 1, okay? On side 1, you can start at the corner right here or anywhere along this side. Draw a cool looking shape. It doesn't matter how curvy, wavy. All I want to tell you though is you don't want to make too many zigzag lines, only because that's going to be hard to cut out later, okay? So you want to make a kind of a cool wavy line on side 1. Then on side 2, you're going to kind of do something similar. And so let's do like that, maybe a sharp line there, and then maybe comes down like that. I don't know how that's going to turn out later on, but we'll continue moving forward. Let's go ahead and move this. We'll come back to this later. All right. So now that we have our post-it, our single solitary post-it here with our lines drawn on side 1, our lines drawn on side 2, we are going to go ahead and begin cutting out the first one, okay? So I want you to be very careful when you're cutting out the shape to be as precise as possible. So now that we have our first side cut out, you see, right here, that was the shape that we drew with the line on side 1. We're going to pull that off, and now without turning it around or losing it or flipping it upside down, we're going to take this and just move it over, okay? We're going to move it right on this side. Depending on where the line was cut from, as you can see, this is a kind of a curve, so that'll be hard to match exactly where it needs to be pointed on here. So we're going to use this top point to try to match it up with here. How we're going to do that? So we're going to just fold this over, okay? And now you kind of see how that's like a mirror image of what was cut out, okay? And we're going to go ahead and move that over real quick, and just make sure the corners are kissing, and just take our pencil and just draw a little line there so we know exactly where to tape this side. You're going to take your tape right here. Just take a little piece. A little bit goes a long way. Okay, and just go ahead and do that. Tape that bad boy right there. So now you see how that lines up right there and right there. And if you need a little bit more tape, you can just go ahead and put that on. So now we're going to do the same thing over here. So again, carefully cut it out. So what does this all mean now that every time I move this template up here, it interlocks with the exact same shape that is beneath it because it was moved over. Same thing goes over here. This shape now interlocks with this side as well because it's the same exact shape, just moved over. So let's go ahead and take our new template that we've just made out of our post-it notes, and let's go ahead and make a cool pattern. So I want you to grab a fresh blank piece of paper, okay? And take your template. It doesn't matter which way you angle it because you can connect it to the side that corresponds to it, so it'll always interconnect, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and take this, and I'm just gonna begin by placing it down right around here. It doesn't matter which angle you put it because once we start laying in the different shapes and the different templates, it's gonna interlock anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my marker to do this, okay? And in order to stop this from sliding all around, if you want, go ahead and take a little piece of tape and just wrap it around, so then plop it down on the back side, so that way it's not moving around too much when you're trying to trace the outlines. So after tracing everything, again, you don't have to worry about making it exactly perfect because this is just an exercise to introduce you to what tessellations are. As you can see from the time lapse, even I ran into some problems because of the flimsy nature of these post-it notes that we're using as the templates. So don't worry if you can't get it exact, just try your best to have it recreate and interlocked exactly the way it was intended to. I'm going to go ahead and finish coloring this off in another time lapse, but go ahead and take your time with finishing this drawing. I'm going to go ahead and use some colored pencils instead of the markers just because I want a different look than the markers are going to give me. But you could use whatever you want to color it in and just have fun with it. Alright, let's finish up this project. Alright everybody, so that about covers the project. We went over MC Escher, we learned about tessellations, we manipulated a square grid pattern to make some cool shapes and interlocking patterns, and again, the key word here is tessellation. So if you can take that away from this entire project, thumbs up to you. If you learned a little bit about MC Escher, thumbs up to you. And honestly, I'm excited to see all the wonderful, unique creations that you guys can all create. Because just like Psalms 139:14 says, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that well. And just in the same way, we are all unique and wonderfully, fearfully made beings, human beings, made in God's image, but we all have our unique quirks and patterns. So I'm interested to see how yours takes shape on this page. So thank you guys all for participating, and God bless. Bye-bye.